We're on air. It is Thursday, March 31st. Happy last day of March, Wes. I guess something to celebrate. We're just going to do a quick check-in on the design tasks that are currently open for Backdrop CMS, both the project itself and things around it that we also need. So for backdropcms.org, the website, we are currently waiting for a design review on the blog news section, which is fine as it is, but we need to kind of make sure that we're keeping in line with the rest of our aesthetics, since we just kind of threw it up and didn't have a plan ahead of time. And the same thing is true of the event listing. We've got a sidebar on the news page, as well as a listing page with a complete set of events that could probably use a little overview, just to make sure it's as useful and beautiful as it could be. We're currently working on a showcase section, so people who are building websites with Backdrop can post the sites that they've built in kind of a little case study fashion on the site. And we went ahead and looked at a bunch of different websites and the kind of information that they collected about each site in their showcase, and made a spreadsheet, which is linked from our Hangout. I think it also might be linked from issue number 176 in the backdropcms.org queue if anyone wants to take a look at it. But I think it kind of gave us a good idea of the kinds of information that are being collected on different websites, and if we want to include the same sort of things on ours. There's obviously some things that we definitely need, like a screenshot of the website, but the question is, do we want to do a whole bunch of screenshots of maybe various different pages and have some kind of a carousel? Or do we just want to do one screenshot per site? And then there's also some kind of logistical, technical, tricky issues with screenshots. Like, do you require that they're a certain size so that they all fit in a given carousel, or do you want to let people do like maybe a mobile version that's really, really long and skinny? And then how do you actually display that in a way that's meaningful to people as they're looking at the case studies? So trying to figure out how to actually place those on the page. I'm sure it's a problem that a lot of other sites have run into as well, but needs some kind of thinking about, which makes it not necessarily one of those things we can build first and design later, like the news section or the event section, but maybe something that needs to have a little forethought so that we don't spend a bunch of time building something that is then completely unusable in the end. But I think we have a good idea of what kind of information we want to collect. There's a couple of things that I think we need to wait until we get references in order to do. Like, I would love it if we could link to people who were involved in working on a project and companies or organizations that were involved in that project. So if it is, this company with these 4 employees, if they all want to have references to themselves from that showcase, I think that is would be a really great way to kind of highlight some of the community aspect of who was involved in things. But we don't have those references fields on backdropcms.org yet. So I've started creating like a company profile content type that I figure we could get up and populate first. And then when we later on get the reference field going, hopefully in core, we'll just push the update out, and then we can add that field to the case studies and populate them then. Hopefully we can go back to the people that submitted them and be like, reference your company. Or, whatever incentive we might newsletter them and do some kind of a little, raffle or something. So that could be fun. But yeah, so there's a bunch of stuff there that we will not include in the initial version of the showcase. All the reference stuff, we can add that later. And if anyone's interested in that, has feedback, go ahead and check out issue number 176 on backdropcms.org. Otherwise, I think we're kind of in a design bottleneck here with needing to get a design done. Darius has been our kind of lead design person for backdropcms.org. But if we have anyone else who has design cycles and wants to kind of take a stab at doing that, he might be open to giving a little direction on what he's done so far and then letting someone else take over. I know he's got a lot of other things on his plate right now, so we could definitely use all the help we can get in that area. Then we also have a couple of other sections of the backdropcms.org site that definitely need attention. Right now we have the search page for modules that is almost what was originally designed. It's missing a couple of elements from the design in the implementation just because they didn't exist yet. But we also have designs for a Find Themes page that haven't been implemented. We're just using the designs for the Find a Module page on modules, themes, and layouts. But the use case for using those is a little bit different. Themes, you probably want to see screenshots of your theme. And same thing with layouts. You want to have some kind of a visual cue as to what layout package you're installing. So we would definitely love to get some of those implemented. And I don't know what technical limitations we're going to run into, but I do expect it'll be a little bit like modules where, you know, the design is perfect. This is what we want in the end. And there's going to be a couple of development tasks that are like, oh, you know, we only have one screenshot. We can't build the carousel yet. We'll just put a static image in for now. Stuff like that we'll run into as we start building it. But if anybody's interested in taking that on, that's also something that is going to become more and more important over time to be able to get people, you know, visual cues for themes that they need to install as we get more and more themes. So that's currently needing to be done. And then we also need, I think, a design for the Find Layouts page. I think we have some ideas about how we were going to do that, but we wanted to kind of wait and see how layout packages started to develop before we started building anything to make sure we had all of the right elements on the page. And that's going to need kind of a bigger thought process of who are the people who are on this page, what kinds of things are they trying to install? Like, are people going to be trying to work with layouts and themes that go together, and do we need to have some way to say that this layout was intended to go with this theme, and then you can search for layouts that work with that theme, or are they all going to be completely separate? Like, what is the process that people who are searching for layouts using when they're looking for layouts? Are they just looking for something that matches the design they already have, or do they want like a tool to build their own? I don't know. It's a crazy world. Layouts land that we haven't lived in before. So doing some thought process and kind of figuring out what our use cases are and what people are going to be doing on that page is going to be important for getting the design there correct. For now, it's probably fine using the module one, but getting at very least an image edit, I think, will be important. And then the layout page itself, the page where you look to read more information about the layout you may be about to install, also could use the same kind of treatment where we're trying to figure out what it is that people want to see. Like maybe on the search page, you only get one image, but then when you go to the layout, you can see a preview of all of the layouts that are included in the package. So if you have something like Radix with 32 layouts, you can look at all of them and be like, oh, you know, one of these matches the thing I'm looking for, maybe I'll use it. Or I don't know, I mean, what other things do you need to know about layouts? Do we need to add special fields or other ways to search or list what we need? I don't know. So definitely need some thought there as well. So again, we need some design before we need some building, but we need some user stories before design. All right. So that's kind of it for the to-do list for backdropcms.org. There's always a bunch of stuff we could use help with, but we aren't going to talk about all of the issues in this meeting. If you're interested in looking at everything we're working on the website, there is an issue queue under the Backdrop Ops group called backdropcms.org, where we have all of the issues for that site. There's a specific tag in that queue for design-related stuff. If you have design skills and you want to help us with some of those things, go ahead and check out that tag. All right, so next on the list is marketing issues. This is something that as developers and maybe even designers, we're not necessarily super good at marketing tasks, but there are a bunch of stuff that we have a bunch of items we've recognized that we need to do in order for Backdrop to be successful. And so because some of us are developers and like issue queues, we've started putting those marketing tasks in the backdropcms.org queue as well. And a couple of those marketing tasks do require design skills. Two of them that I want to talk about in this meeting are this long-standing issue we've had for getting some kind of consistent branding assets for Facebook, Twitter, Google+ pages. We're particularly in the market for like a background splash image. And if we can get a really good one, we would also want to use that as the default background splash image on backdropcms.org user profile pages. So when you first create a profile page, you'd get a background image, even if it's just the default one. And then you could choose to override it with your own if you want to personalize your page. So we're looking for that. There's an issue in the queue for that as well. It's currently issue number 121. And right now we're kind of leaning towards getting something that has kind of a geometric shape pattern in it somehow. There's a couple of good examples in that issue of things that we liked from other places. But yeah, anything new and interesting we're also open to consider as well, since that hasn't got a lot of motion lately. Maybe it's been long enough since we first started that something new would be a good refreshing change. And then new, since the last time we had this meeting, Mike McCaffrey pointed out that our dragon stickers don't work really well when you stick them over the apple on the back of an Apple computer. It looks like the dragon's butt's glowing, which is fine if you want a glowing butt dragon. But it might be really fun to design a sticker that would fit really well around that little Apple logo that's glowing in some way. Mike had an idea of like a dragon that was like sleeping around it. I've seen other cute stickers that are like blackout stickers that could have glowing eyes. But anyway, just have someone have a little fun with the dragon and make it integrate with the apple in a way that might work a little bit better than a glowing butt. So if that looks like a fun task, we definitely have a sticker budget every year. So if you can design a sticker, we can get them printed and hand them out at different events that we're attending. So that could be fun. And there are a bunch of other marketing issues that don't involve design. If you're a marketing person, you can check out the audience marketing tag on backdropcms.org as well. All right, Backdrop the product. So this is Backdrop itself. 1.4 is our next release scheduled coming out May 15th. And we've got a ton of things on our to-do list for 1.4. I'm not currently convinced all of them will make it in since we are coming up on April and we haven't gotten that many of them ready yet. However, there are a bunch of things that we are working on that are going to be super exciting. And one of the ones I'm most excited about is the new front end theme. And I know, Wes, you've been doing a ton of work on that. I don't know if you have an update.
Yeah, I do.
Yay.
Oh, I gotta restart Hangouts. 1 second.
Now I get to hang out by myself for a minute. There we go.
Yeah, I didn't think I had any screens to share. Now it sees them. Okay, so what I've been up to, I fixed a lot of things, and then I decided to start implementing the grid system and broke a lot of things. So this is my site that I'm using that where everything is like a fresh install, and I didn't really change layout or config really, just very minimal kind of stuff to make sure that it looks good. So the mobile menu looks pretty decent, but some of this other stuff doesn't quite work. So anyway, nothing too interesting here, but you can kind of see that some of the stuff is starting to take shape and look pretty decent. Pagination, is nice. Drops down there now, which I think I broke him a couple times. And then trying to think of what like a page it's too short would look like. I tried sticking the footer to the bottom, even the page was too short, but that seemed to have a lot of crappy caveats I didn't want to deal with, and I'm not sure I'd like this site content sandwich look, but I don't know. I'll have to bug some design people. But yeah, so this kind of stuff is happening. So I overrode all of the templates that come in core, the layout templates that came out of core. And then I looked at, I was interested in getting a flexbox grid system going. And funny enough, Bootstrap 4 is implementing a flexbox grid system, and they are in alpha. So I went over there, compiled what they had, and stuck it in the theme here and left their comment. I am definitely going to take this, I think, but I do want to make sure that people know that we didn't, create this from scratch. So, but I'm definitely kind of forming it to something that'll work better for us. So if you'll notice that if you're familiar with Bootstrap, instead of dot container, it's L for layout and then grid container, because I think L container was used somewhere else, and I think grid container is more explicit about what it actually is. And then the layout tag is a container, so I included that there. But so this is the flexbox grid system, and Bootstrap 4 is also including the traditional float grid system. And I was thinking we could have a theme setting to say, you know what, I don't want flexbox for whatever reason, just give me float. And then by default, you would get it. And if the browser doesn't support flexbox, then we would fall back to the float grid system, which would use the same classes. And
we should be careful not to put too much layout stuff in the theme.
Right.
So
I'm kind of working on
any grid system should be I don't know where the crossover is, but it should be a layout, right? So we would have, or maybe, and we're talking about putting on these new layouts in core, like making sure that all of the CSS that targets any L dash thing is in a self-contained layout and not in the theme.
So we can kind of talk about that later. What I'm more concerned about is what should Bootstrap be like in the long run, more than what file should go where, and like that kind of stuff.
So how ready do you think this alpha Flexbox Bootstrap thing is? Like, is it stable enough to put in 1.4?
So that's what I'm trying to figure out. I think it's fine. I think the stuff that's in alpha for Bootstrap is more the non-grid stuff. Like they have all sorts of JavaScript features and stuff like that. Flexbox is very mature at this point, and it has plenty of support if you have the browser prefixes in. So it's IE10 and up, and all phone browsers that have any significant usage. And yeah.
Is there a polyfill for IE8 and up?
We would fall back to floats. So we would just make sure that this file got loaded.
Okay.
Which is this, it's the same stuff. So that's my thought right now, and we'll see.
Yeah.
So I'm just calling grid system flex and grid system float.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. So
can we use the alpha grid system from Bootstrap with a stable version of whatever else? Like if we wanted the theme to use some like older version of Bootstrap, or is there?
Yeah, right. I'm kind of pulling in the features that we want, and yeah, right now I'm like, okay, well, I want the grid system. Like, if not verbatim, then very close.
Yeah.
You know? So
that's fantastic.
I prefaced every class with L. So L call extra small 1. So this only applies, or this applies to the extra small and up breakpoint, which is everything coincidentally, but small will have an immediate query here. So you have the columns, you have push, you have offset, yeah, and then you have the different sizes. And I changed from the default breakpoints. I don't like their default breakpoints, so I made them a little different. So then we have, all this stuff. The one thing I did add that I think they might want to add, maybe I'll make an issue or something or a conversation around it, is one feature that you can get in Flexbox is you can change the order of appearance of elements very easily, which you can't do in floats. It's a lot trickier. So I made classes for making the order either 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, and that's all you ever need. If you need more than that, something's wrong.
Yeah.
And you can change it per breakpoint. So like the order might be different on mobile than it is on desktop, depending on how your grid lays out. So added that. And then my next step was to like take these layout templates and reproduce the same layout with my grid system and see how it felt and see what worked and what didn't.
And you just happen to do that in a theme because that's where everything was, but we can figure out later what this is. Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Fair enough.
Just trying to get the kind of front-end architecture down, and then we can figure out
how to split it.
Yeah, how to get the proper implementation in.
This is great.
So yeah, I've found that I need, maybe one more div than I would like to have, but it is what it is. So you need a wrapper and 2 inners, basically, and that's to accommodate full site width color bands like we have like on the homepage, which is now broken. And then also to accommodate the Bootstrap row, and then the most inner one is the Bootstrap column. And so even if there's only one column, you still need that.
Yeah.
So and the idea is that this would, like a system like Bootstrap with all these utility classes, would be easier for site builders and people who aren't familiar with CSS. So
love it.
And then the other thing we're showing is that this is the site that I'm working on for Realsies. It'll be public at some point, but it's just a way that people can log onto a website, upload a 360-degree photo, and then actually be able to show it to people.
Ooh.
So, yeah, pretty fun. It's based on A-Frame, but we're using Backdrop as a content management system, and then A-Frame is a very simple XML-like language.
Nice.
HTML, XML-like. So, so a few people from Lullabot are working on this with me, and I'm using the theme and trying to see how I like using it as a base theme.
Okay. So the theme, I forget what you said it was called. It's something like
Basis.
Basis. Okay, I was like basic basis. Okay, and then so is that in Contrib right now?
Yeah, totally is. So
I think so. I'm working on a site right now as well, and I thought it might be fun to kind of take what you were working with Basis and see if I could start from that too.
Sure.
Which should be fun. And then I would love to see the stuff you're doing with grids. I don't know if you're ready to put that in Basis yet, but
it is, for better or worse.
Okay. So it's in there already?
Yeah.
Okay.
It shouldn't change too much, but I mean, I marked it alpha, so and put a giant warning on this somewhere.
Don't use this theme in a real project yet.
Yep. So, it's up there. Backdrop, Contrib, Basis. So, and then I have issues that I'm trying to keep track of. So this one's in progress. I don't know if there's even a label for that, but whatever. So I'm working on that, and I have some bugs, and I think Clonos found some stuff, and so it's still early, but I'm not sure if you should use it on a project that you have a deadline for, but if you want to mess around and see what it's like, it's worth toying around with a little bit. Okay. And you could definitely just clone it, fork it and only use your version, so you don't have to deal with my changes and only pull in what you want. Yeah. Try that. That might work better. And I'm trying to make it so that, for instance, this site, Joe Schmo can log in or create a login and upload their photo, and I don't want to change themes. So this obviously isn't looking good right now because this is the vertical tabs, but some of the basic styling is there. So it's just need to look at this too. So that's where I'm at. Okay, that's looking great. Let's see. So if just thinking about what's going to happen with the future of Backdrop 1.4, if we end up deciding to put in a new front-end theme for 1.4 but push the layouts to 1.5, would that be better or worse? That would not, the way this thing's built, that wouldn't be possible. I think it would, I don't know, maybe it is. It would take some work. So, I mean, the goal for the new front-end theme was to add something that people could kind of launch a site with that's very blank slatey. And I think that that's already been achieved. The question is just would the front-end theme work with the existing core layouts, or is it going to be crazy? And then when we add the new Contrib layouts later, making sure that everything still continues to work. And so if, for example, we included Bootstrap 3 with the front-end theme, excluding all of the layout stuff. And then when we add layout packages in the future that includes
Bootstrap for alpha, like what kind of trouble are we going to get into if the grid system alpha changes in some way?
I don't plan on updating based on Bootstrap's updates.
Okay.
I don't think anything significant will change. Number one. Number two, I've modified it, and like I'm willing to maintain it. Yeah, their needs are going to be different than ours, and I'm just kind of using them as a amazing starting point.
Yeah. Okay. I was thinking that would also be super useful for people who are coming to Backdrop who are familiar with Bootstrap. If we could say, oh, you know, you've used Bootstrap 4, we're using the Bootstrap 4 grid system with these modifications, right? And we could have a documentation page that explains like how to add the count, right? Or the things that are different that they're going to need to understand. But I think having that, not having to maintain our own documentation and having people who are already familiar with it is going to be a huge win, even if the code isn't exactly the same, you know, because we've made some modifications to it. The win is there regardless.
Yep.
So I think that sounds great. I want to play with your theme, so I'm going to start doing that now, and then we'll try and figure out what the path forward is. I just feel like we haven't made enough progress on layouts to be confident about those getting in. Especially if we want to add like 33 of them or whatever.
Oh, okay. So no, I don't need 33 to get in for this to be like doable, but I do need updates. I need updates to the existing layout markup. Yes.
Okay.
To make this work well.
Yeah. And so that's kind of what I was thinking too, is that, you know, we haven't figured out how to handle updates to existing layout markup. Like, I don't think we can do that within major release. So we might have to create new layouts with this similar name, right? And then mark the old ones as deprecated so that when Backdrop 1.4 comes out, it would just duplicate the layouts that are there with like old style, new style. And then when Backdrop 2 comes out, we can drop the ones that are there now. Or we have to provide some kind of an upgrade path with like attaching legacy style sheets, or I don't know. We've got to figure out some way to like not break people's current sites that were using the old layouts if they have like style sheets in their theme that target the old selectors somehow. So
I didn't change any selectors. I only added
divs.
So theoretically, it doesn't change.
Well, maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll steal your layouts from that thing and just throw them in core on one of my sites and see what happens.
Right. That would be interesting.
Just be like, dum-da-dum, different markup, how's it going? But yeah, I mean, adding devs is in theory like pretty safe, but I would love to see what happens in practice. So.
Yep. Oh, I'm not for sure that I've actually finished updating all of these layouts. I think, yeah, I did not. So I think I did 2-column and then I started on the 3-3-4.
Okay. I'll start with 2-column then.
Or did I even do 2-column? I didn't. I could do that today though. So that won't be hard.
Well, no rush. I mean, you've got a bunch of other stuff you're working on too. But just if you could like shoot me an email or like mention me in the issue queue or something, just so that I can know it's time to play with things. That'll be good.
Will do. Cool.
All right, fantastic. Thanks for the update. That makes me feel a little better. It's looking great, and you're thinking about all of the hard problems. So that's fantastic. All right, so if anyone's interested in all the other stuff we've got going on for 1.4, there is a milestone in the Backdrop issue queue for that. Themes and layouts are the two things that need the most help from designers, but we do also have a handful of user experience issues that were left over from the 1.3 release that we want to get in. In particular, we're adding Project Browser that'll allow people to browse for modules, themes, and layouts without leaving their Backdrop site. And that's probably going to need a little bit of design review. We're taking an existing Drupal project and kind of reworking it a little bit for Backdrop, and it's going to be, you know, a little alpha initially. And so if we just get more eyes on it and be like, it would look better if this thing was over here, that'll be useful. So go ahead and check that out if you're interested in that also. All right. So outside of Backdrop itself, there's a bunch of other stuff that we'd love to work on, particularly relating to design and user experience. We have a human interface guidelines document that we're trying to outline where we're using which kind of elements for people to interact with the software. Things like drop buttons and field sets and vertical tabs should all be documented there, dialogues, but we don't actually have, we have an outline of that document. We don't actually have any documentation yet. So if you're really interested in human interfaces or user experience, we would love to have somebody kind of go through and just outline the things we have and where they should and maybe shouldn't be used. And we think that'll end up creating a better product for everyone. Module developers will have a place to go to consult whether they should use that element in this location or not, and they'll build it accordingly. And then we can also go and update all of core to be consistent about when these things are being used and how they should function. And that should hopefully make a more cohesive, intuitive platform. So that's it for the agenda. Is there anything else we should talk about?
I was thinking about jumping in on some of the issues that looked like they might need some design love. There was the layouts page that you and Clonos and some other people were looking at. If there's anything that jumps out to you as needing some design, let me know. And
I definitely think we need feedback on that issue. So for those of you who are watching the video, the issue is the layouts admin listing page. Initially, it had very minimal amount of information on it, and then we tried to add a ton more information, but we're having a really hard time figuring out like how it should be organized. So we're looking at like Views UI as an example, although I'm not sure that's necessarily a great model to follow. It is at least a model we have in core. And we're trying to figure out like how best to handle if we put a ton of information on that page, how does that information decrease with limited screen size? Like, do we give people tools to get back the things that are missing on mobile by marking columns less important or more important? Or do we use expand collapse tools like we have on the modules page where we show more or less information? Yeah, it's interesting because we've got two different use cases for visiting that page. One of them is the expert site builder that's got 500 layouts, and they just want to find, you know, the blog page for authenticated users. And that might be a very different thing than the person who has one layout they use on their whole site, and they just need to get to that blogs page. And if we spend a lot of time kind of examining that page for one user and not the other, we might make it really hard on the other one. So yeah, I definitely, if you could just look at that and add some feedback as to where you think things should go and how you think we're handling the hiding things on mobile, that would be fantastic. And then there's a couple of other issues like that that are specifically around layouts that could probably use some attention to, where it's like, I don't know. Somebody make us a picture and we can build it.
Yeah. If there's anything that needs a picture, I don't know if you can flag it for me or just at me at it. Yeah, I do have like a bit of a backlog in my email. Like, oh, I should get back to that later, but I should have some time here pretty soon. So
okay. Well, the ones that are most important, you probably get mentioned more often, so they should come to the top of that list, I hope. So if you start from the top, that should be fine.
Do we have a label for like needs design or something?
Yes, there's a audience design tag, which is specifically something we need design for. And then there's also a needs feedback tag if we can't decide about something. So if you can find an audience design and a needs feedback, that's something where we're definitely stuck.
Right. Okay, cool.
Great. Well, thanks so much for all of your great work so far, and I will see you in 15 minutes probably.
Bye.